2024. It's a unique day. We've listened to the DG who mentioned it. I appreciate the leadership of the National Institute for Peace and Conflict Resolution, Abuja, for your commitment towards shaping narratives of peace building through qualitative peace education and research. You are doing well. We appreciate that so much. Of course, when we talk about peace, I know there will be a keynote speaker that will go through this. I may not get you involved in the technicalities because I remember a program I attended long ago, and somebody from the road safety was to discuss accidents. And when he gave us the technical definition of accident, means that if you want to go to work and you think you can drive down there within 30 minutes, and you get to a serious traffic and delay you for 1 hour, that is accident. And those of us who are ordinary people say, is that accident? Because our own definition of accident is that there must be impact. A vehicle must hit some object, human or otherwise. But that is the technical definition of accident. So we'll listen to the technical person. But for me, peace, the word peace, originated in the 11th century. And that word came from one Anglo-French word, pace or so. I don't speak French, I don't know how to pronounce it. And the old French word, PAIS, pace. And both words originated from the Latin, PAX. But if you look through the various definitions, generally what we consider as peace is agreement, tranquility, harmony, lack of conflict, which is key, and freedom from fear of violence between individuals or group of individuals. I'm particularly interested in the theme for this year, cultivating a culture of peace. The two words there is culture and peace, which I will make brief remarks on. Peace is what everybody wants, because without peace, you can't do anything. We all remember that peace is the foundation for sustainable development, and without it, no nation can achieve meaningful progress. Of course, the United Nations was set up at the end of the Second World War in 1945, of course, including the Security Council, to promote world peace and minimize hostilities across the world. So everybody needs peace. The whole concept of UN expected so many NGOs to be here. So the NGOs in Nigeria have a big role to play, because no matter what our mission is, we can't do without peace. You can't go to a place to discuss whether you are talking about gender issues, you are talking about health issues, you are talking about education issues. If there are major conflicts, you cannot. So I expect all the NGOs, all the civil society in Nigeria, including the Jonatjan Foundation, which I'm the chairman, to focus on peace. And when you talk about civil society, Nigeria is very rich. From the report, in the last 4 years alone, we have registered 174,100 civil societies for the last 4 years alone, in addition to the thousands that were arrested for the last 4 years. So we have the army that can deal with the issues of peace. And just like I said, I like the theme, the culture of peace, cultivating the culture of peace. So what is culture and what is peace? And if you look at what is happening now, and you look at the 2024 Global Peace Index, you see so many countries are in conflict. And out of the 10 top countries that are in conflict globally, 3 of them are in sub-Saharan Africa, and quite a number of countries around us, including us, are in one form of conflict or the other. And when you look at what causes conflict in Africa, most cases is struggle for leadership. contestation for power. And that is the main cause of conflicts. Sometimes when you go to a society and people can tell you all kinds of stories, but by the time you do proper analysis and think deeply, you know that most causes of conflicts is leadership struggle. And that is why I'm also worried about my country, Nigeria. Of course, people say politics is a dirty game. And the way we play our politics must be clean. We cannot play politics that will elicit conflict. You remember Obasanjo, the former president, recently made a statement that politics is not dirty. But the people that play the politics come to play politics with their dirty minds and dirty habits and dirty character. And that is why people say politics is dirty. And in that case, we must all begin to think differently. We must cultivate the culture of peace. And of course, we know when we talk about the culture of the people, it has to do with everything that you do around you. How you prepare your food, how you worship your God, how you do your marriages, your burial, everything about the languages, because these are part of the culture. And when we develop that culture of peace, you do it seamlessly. You don't even feel that you are doing something that is good. And until we get to that level where we develop the culture of peace, in this country, we will always have major conflicts in our elections, and one day this country will erupt. And we all know how, let me use the politics, because that is what the major cause of conflicts in Africa is: politics or struggle for leadership. And without us strengthening that aspect, without us developing that culture of contesting election peacefully, we will always be in conflicts in Africa and also in Nigeria. It's dangerous what we are seeing. Let me use what you have seen. We've just finished the elections in Edo State, and even if you were not in Edo State, the Yaga people here were in Edo State, but most of us was the media and read from social media and so on. So you see that there's much tension. Even though results have been announced, somebody has been announced as a winner, but there's tension because there are certain things that probably were done differently. And we must move away from that. In our electoral processes, we must develop that culture. I've been to quite a number of African countries, and YEG Africa, I used to meet them in a number of those countries. Let me give an example, like a country in West Africa, Senegal, had their elections not too long ago. And because they have developed that culture, you see, they did not use any technology to do the elections. I don't want to bore your ears by explaining what I observed. Very simple. Here in Nigeria, we talk about technology. Without the human mind being ready to do what is right, even if you bring the technology, it will be manipulated. My time, it was a card reader. That card reader almost caused crisis in the country, especially when I wanted to vote, and the card reader rejected me as the sitting president. My wife wanted to vote, and the card reader rejected my wife as the first lady. My mother wanted to vote, and the card reader rejected my mother. So you can imagine that was a recipe for crisis. We have to manage the situation, otherwise Niger Delta would have gone into flames. And of course, it would have engulfed the rest of the country. So the human mind must be attuned to that. We must develop that culture. In Senegal, everybody that was involved in the electoral process was ready to do the right thing. The electoral management body, like our INEC, was ready to do the right thing. Nobody was interested in manipulating the process. The security, they were ready to do the right thing. Nobody was interested in manipulating the process. In fact, they have polling stations. Within the polling stations, we have polling units. You see the police only in front. In most cases, they use I think you hear my voice. Most cases, they use secondary school and primary school classrooms and compounds, and within the classrooms, you have the voting unit. The police were just at the front. No police was inside where they were voting, because they have developed that culture that nobody was there to do the wrong thing. The voters themselves were ready to do the right thing. No voter wanted to manipulate. The political parties, everybody, candidates, they were all there to do the right thing. And they conducted the election without technology, and it is the best election I've observed within Africa, and some of the countries have gone outside Africa. So that culture of doing the right things must be there. In Nigeria, we don't have that culture. And that is why we have our military people here. That is why even ordinary election of a governor, not even a president, the army will be involved. Yes, some countries, they use Navy and Air Force, and sometimes the army, to carry materials in very difficult terrains, or fly them, or maybe in the riverine areas, but not to play the role of a police. Rarely you see the military, because for the military to come out to perform civil responsibility, it requires, most countries requires the president and the commander-in-chief to issue a declaration. Military don't just come out. But because we have not developed that culture, ordinary election, maybe even election of local government chairman now, we see the military. We have reduced the value of armed forces. Management of elections, in fact, in the countries where the chief executive of the country is a different person, the prime minister, and the commander-in-chief is a different person, either the queen or a king or elected president. The president will not, except the commander-in-chief, call out the military. They don't work. And the prime minister has no powers to call out the military, even though he's the administrative head of the country. And because before the military comes out to perform response, it's a serious business. Now, because we have not developed that culture of peace, we use the military as if they are police officers. The military is not police. So, as a country, if we don't change, we politicians don't change our political behavior and embrace that culture that was embedded in us, that it will look as if it's a part of our genetic makeup, one day this country will then go into a conflagration that nobody can control. So we, the politicians, must know that what we do wrongly is wrong. And when we politicians justify evil things and say it is politics, somebody does something that's able to say it's politics. It's not politics, you're a criminal. So for me today, as the chairman, to declare this event open, I'm calling on all Nigerians, not just politicians, because all Nigerians vote, all Nigerians, to develop that culture of peace, especially our struggle for leadership. The vote, the electoral management body, the security, the political parties, the voters themselves, the judiciary, and always relate elections to the game of soccer. In the game of soccer, while these young men and women in the field, sometimes they can get so charged that they even want to bring their colleague down. But the referee will know